Hey guys, how's it going? Kripparrian here. So recently, one of the senior game devs over in the Hearthstone department at Blizzard, Dean Ayala, on his Twitter has been sending out this kind of like polling, rolling, I don't know, I guess I'd call it analysis, group analysis of what is the best Hearthstone card ever. And this is a really interesting kind of question that he posed. The poll is ongoing, so you can too participate. I will link Ixar's Twitter below if you wish. And I think it's important to realize today I'm basically going to give you guys my analysis, what I would vote for on every single step of the card chart that he gave us. Don't let this influence you too much. Do your own opinion. Probably best you just go ahead and vote right now and then watch the rest of the video if you really want to be super fair. But yeah, it's something that they're trying to do. They're trying to get some public opinion, and I don't want to interfere with that too much. So keep that at the back of your mind if you do participate in his polls. So this is the chart as we see it. We basically have 4 groups of cards, and each one battles another for the spot of the best, and in the end we get the best card ever. So the way that I want to structure this video, because it's kind of a lot of stuff to go to, it's a lot of cards to review, it's a lot of things to go through, I want to basically do finalize group by group. So I'm going to do a whole group. We're going to have one winner from each of the 4 groups, and then those 4 cards will battle it out at the end. There's another aspect that I think is very important to state. It's that cards generally have become much more powerful recently. So just because a card was in every single deck back when, Hearthstone was new and fresh and like 5 years ago or whatever, well, it doesn't mean a whole lot today, actually. And I will explain that as we move through the chart. Now, there's a lot of images and stuff. I kind of want to move quickly through the first brackets. I think the first set of cards, when they battle it out, it's overall not too much to discuss in most cases, so we'll see. All right, let's get to it here. So this is the full first bracket. I thought that while Prince Kel'Seth is a new card, it just doesn't compare to Mysterious Challenger. Mysterious Challenger was quite recent, and Mysterious Challenger up until very recently was being played in the Wild format. And the Wild format is large. It has a ton of cards. Mysterious Challenger was a deck-defining, honestly, game-defining card. Mysterious Challenger is absolutely insane. The idea is you build your deck full of secrets, and whenever you get a Mysterious Challenger, you play and you siphon all those small cards from your deck, so you have that insanely powerful tempo and value play on turn 6, but then it makes it so the rest of your deck that is otherwise fairly an aggressive Paladin deck just loses all those 1-drop draws, so you're getting just insane draws. You're just getting your late game, you're getting your mid-range, you're no longer getting very many bad draws, and from a tempo push with no bad draws left, it's really hard to lose, and that's why Mysterious Challenger certainly beats the newcomer Kel'Seth, which I think is honestly pretty marginal. I think Kel'Seth succeeds in small card sets, not large ones. Arcanologist versus Blast Mage. For me, this is a clear Blast Mage. I know all these cards are really powerful, but Blast Mage was really something else. If you meet the condition of having a mech, which was kind of the idea back in the day, you get 4 missiles, and these days we have 5 missiles for 3 mana, and that's actually seeing play, because missiles are really powerful. They're very good at clearing small minions, which is typically what aggro decks are playing, and you get residual face damage, and that is very, very strong in those type of decks. Blast Mage is overall a very solid card. And then we have Minibot versus Spiteful Summoner. I think Spiteful Summoner is a clear winner here. I know Spiteful Summoner, again, kind of high rolls in situations where the sets are not very large. That's why it's such a dominant card right now. But I think it's such a dominant card right now when we have just, an insane amount of power creep, where a lot of these other cards were, had their dominant phases, let's say, that really it deserves to be one of the best cards, and you can kind of see it move through the bracket a little bit there. So yeah, I think Spiteful Summoner is, again, kind of like a game-defining card right now, and Yeah, it's no joke. That card is absolutely crazy. Keeper versus Flame Tongue, that's a close one, but I think I have to give it to Keeper because of the flexibility in the card. It basically, anytime your opponent has 3 minions, you play Sun Keeper. If they don't have any answers, you get 3 for 1 with those, and you buff up your guys. The flexibility of the card is just absolutely ridiculous, and the smaller minions that are being played, the better it is. And right now, we're going small. Right now, we have, things like Paladin's just dumping out dudes as fast as possible. That's the game right now, so that helps a lot. Malfurion versus Doomguard. Doomguard is a clear winner. Doomguard has been a very problematic card for a really long time, particularly because there are so many mechanics that just pop out demons from your deck, from your hand, that have died, whatever. So Doomguard as a standalone is not that great, but it has so much synergy. It's just, you cannot ignore it. Doomguard, with the support that it has, and it has a lot of support, is one of the craziest cards out there. Blizzard, time and time again, has come back and nerfed charge minions. Well, Doomguard has survived all the nerfs and has taken the meta by storm many times over now. Northshire versus Piloted Treader. This is kind of what I've been talking about. Piloted Treader, I don't think would be that great of a card right now. It was a really good card when the competitive 4-drops were Chillwind Yetis, but they're not anymore. People actually don't even play 4-drops because 4-drops are actually kind of slow. Most of the game happens on turn 1, 2, and maybe 3. So 4-drops have to be spectacular, and it's not. I think typically 1-drops of old are actually about as good as the new 1-drops. That's why Northshire Cleric takes the spot. Dark Peddler versus Tyrion. Tyrion, although has been pretty impactful in the past, it's been a card that people can counter, have countered with silence removal, weapon removal. Dark Peddler is just really hard to counter. Dark Peddler has been a card that has been in every single, honestly, every single Warlock deck when it was in the standard rotation. It was in Zoo, it was in Aggro, it was in combo decks because you get extra burst off 1-drop spells, which have an occurrence bonus because they're some of the few Warlock 1-cost cards. Dark Peddler is just absolutely ridiculous, and yeah, good card. Lastly, Loatheb over Brawl, easily won here. Brawl kind of sucks, it's just Warrior doesn't have AoE board removal. Loatheb's insane. Loatheb is just really crazy. It's the combo dropper. It's the huge tempo play. If you have a board, you play Loatheb, your opponent is almost never going to be able to respond to your board. It's like a nail in the coffin type of card for an aggressive deck, for a tempo deck, for a mid-range deck. It's a counter combo tech card for a control deck against the combo deck. It's just absolutely ridiculous. On the second round of things, I had Mysterious Challenger come on top of Goblin Blast Mage. That's pretty clear. Spiteful Summoner from the other bracket, I think, beats Sunkeeper Tauren pretty steadily there. Again, I think it's a game-defining card right now, and that's why I think I have to give it to Spiteful Summoner. Even though Mysterious Challenger was a game-defining card a little bit while ago, let's say, Spiteful Summoner is kicking it hard right now. I know there's very few 10-drops right now, which is why the card is on a peak power level, but honestly, that card was still around when there were some pretty trash 10-drops in the last standard cycle. So even then, it was one of the best. On the lower side, Doomguard versus Loatheb, had to give it to Doomguard obviously beats Northshire. Loatheb obviously beats Dark Peddler. Had to give it to Loatheb over Doomguard. That's a really close one, but I feel the flexibility of Loatheb will come back time and time again if they do something like add Loatheb to the classic set, which is something I think they have talked about. But again, I have to give it to Spiteful Summoner for the first bracket here. Spiteful Summoner is a game-defining card, and I think we'll continue to see play regardless of how shitty 10-drops might come into the game at some point. We're seeing a lot more high mana cost, high impact spells, and that is exactly the type of cards that are going to fuel this card in the future. Then the next bracket here, this is the lower left bracket, starts off with Brand versus Mad Scientist. Mad Scientist, I think, is a clear winner. Mad Scientist was a good enough card to see play in Hunter. It's a good enough card to see play in some Paladin decks, but keep in mind, Mage Secrets are 3 mana. So it's, draw a card and play a 3 mana card from your deck. You also thin your deck in the process, and it's a 2 mana 2/2. It's just insane. The power level of Mad Scientist, power level of early game cards in general, especially Mad Scientist, is just through the roof. It's hard to compare this card to almost any other 2-drop in the game. Vilespine versus Imp Gang Boss. I think Imp Gang would probably see some play these days. It's that good of a card. It's so good at punishing small minions. But nonetheless, Vilespine is just in every rogue deck these days. It's just such a powerful removal card that I don't think it can be ignored. Very close one, though. Cleef versus Azure Drake. I couldn't give it to Azure Drake anymore. I think Azure Drake was Hall of Fame just because they wanted to push the dragon kind of tribal type. I think without the dragon tribal type, Azure Drake probably in one more expansion would have started seeing very little play because a 5-mana draw is just a bit too slow. Certainly by today's standards, it is way too slow. We hardly ever see Azure Drake in any wild decks, and if we do, we're talking about some heavy combo decks that just require all the draw they can get. So of course they would use a card that draws other cards. I think overall Edwin has been more of a menace in the meta than Azure Drake in the whole picture of Hearthstone. Ice Block versus Wild Growth. As good as Wild Growth is, Ice Block. Ice Block is basically the ender. It's just the ultimate killer of combo decks. It's the deterrent for aggro. It's been used in Burn Mage just to get those extra few turns. The flexibility, the impact, the weight of the card is just absolutely ridiculous. Then we have Possessed Lackey versus Primordial Glyph. I think Primordial is really strong, but I think Possessed Lackey, given the demon set that we've had routinely in the standard set, Possessed Lackey I think will win out. Ultimate Infestation versus Divine Favor. I really think Divine Favor is a giant problem card, but I think Ultimate Infestation will be included in every single Druid deck until the end of time. Combo Druid, even aggressive Druids, Spiteful Druids, just everything. The card is just on its own power level. The main problem is it costs 10 mana, so I don't think it competes with a lot of other superpower cards. I don't think it's the best card ever, but I certainly think it beats Divine Favor, even though I really hate Divine Favor. Haunted Creeper versus Thing from Below. Haunted Creeper easily wins in my opinion. It was the 2-drop of choice when 1-drops and 2-drops were at their peak. So yeah, it's still one of the best 2-drops in the game. Draconic Operative versus 4-mana 7/7. Have to give it to the Operative, but it's short-lived as you see the next bracket. Haunted Creeper takes it. Haunted Creeper takes it over UI. And in the other bracket, as good as Mad Scientist is, Ice Block trumps all of it. Ice Block, I think, is one of the ultimate cards in the game, honestly. And yeah, I have mixed feelings about it going to the Hall of Fame, but probably for the best. Moving on to the third group here, we have Emperor Tarson versus Anti-Keelbot. Easily Emperor Tarson, in my opinion. Anti-Keelbot was a very powerful, highly used card, but it was so in a game state that just didn't have any meaningful healing. So, yes, turns out healing is pretty good. Now we have a lot of that. So just its unique effect is no longer that unique, and there's better forms of healing these days in just about every class except maybe Rogue. Okay, Rogue would probably still rank that card very highly, but there's 8 other classes. Kazakus versus Animal Companion. While Kazakus is very good, I do not think it was even a deck-defining card when Reno Jackson rotated out and Kazakus was still in the game. There were almost no decks that would sacrifice using duplicate of cards to actually use Kazakus. It was not a good enough card to warrant that requirement. It's pretty good when grouped up with Reno Jackson and stuff, as we have seen, but standalone Kazakus is not quite as strong as he seems. Animal Companion, actually I think is a fairly weak card by today's standards, but it's still very good. It's just traditionally been the go-to hunter card. Just kind of falling off now, where early game is really just going crazy strong. Swipe versus Skull. Skull is obviously very good. It's very played right now, but Swipe has always been good. It will continue to be good in combo decks and mid-range decks, everything. It's just really solid card. Skull is good, but whenever people can afford to run weapon removal, well, it's not so good. Reno Jackson versus Mana Worm, I think is just a no-brainer. Mana Worm, I think, is possibly the second best 1-drop ever. Next to Tunnel Trog, obviously. So it's just really hard to beat anything. Like, the best 1-drop in the game, I think, is going to be one of the best cards in the game. So we'll see about that. So I think it easily takes it over. As good as Reno Jackson is, who are we kidding? Mana Worm is absolutely broken. Prep versus Defile. We have seen the power of Defile. Defile wins. Blood River Gul'dan versus Totem Golem. Totem Golem, I think, is on the way out. It's not quite as good these days. Largely, Totem Golem was being played because of Tunnel Trog, not the other way around. Totem Golem came out before Tunnel Trog, and Totem Golem only saw play after Tunnel Trog. So very important note there. Totem Golem as a standalone, not quite that strong. Implosion versus Frost Lich Jaina. This is a pretty close one, but it doesn't really matter for me. Because, well, the two cards in the next bracket are just better. I think Implosion is probably a little better than Jaina just because, well, it's a tempo card. It was used when early game was really nuts. I think it'll still hold up by today's standards, while Jaina probably will be on its way out because Control Mage without Ice Block is, well, a struggle. But yeah, Muster for Battle versus Zombie Chow. Obviously, we have to give it to Muster for Battle, but Zombie Chow is, again, top 5 1-drops ever in Hearthstone, so obviously we're not talking lightly here. Just Muster for Battle probably just is the best 3-drop in Hearthstone. So as a result, well, it's going to climb to the bracket and ultimately only lose to Mana Worm, and I would say barely. I barely gave this to Muster for Battle. I think Mana Worm and Muster for Battle are very close to one another. I think Mana Worm is the second best 1-drop in the game, and I think Muster for Battle is the best 3-drop in the game. But I think 1-drops are in general higher value than any other mana card. So very, very close there, but I gave it to Muster just because of the recent synergistic dude cards that Paladin has received lately. Fourth bracket here, we got Dr. Boom versus Shutterwalk. I do think Dr. Boom is basically on its way out. I think it's a card that has had its time, but Blizzard has made a pretty good effort, let's be real, to make high mana cards actually playable. Dr. Boom was a card that was in a state of the game where high mana cost cards just sucked. So Dr. Boom was better than them. And, well, you didn't have as much card draw or combo tools, so you kind of played a game where you played a card and your opponent tried to answer that card one at a time. And Dr. Boom was kind of like playing 2 cards at once. That's why it was so good. But since then, we've had just a huge slew of cards that have overtaken him for the 7-drop, for the 8-drop, for 6-drop, honestly. Just so many high power cards these days, and Shutterwalk is one of them, so I think Shutterwalk takes it here. I'd much rather play a Shutterwalk on 9 than Dr. Boom 2 turns earlier. It's just so much more of a powerful effect. Sludge Belcher versus Highmane. Have to give to Sludge Belcher. Highmane was not in every Hunter deck, and Sludge Belcher was in almost every deck, actually. Turns out double taunts with Death Rattles, with future synergies, is pretty good. Flamewaker easily beats Ragnaros. Flamewaker is a card, if you guys don't play Tavern Brawl very much, whenever there's a Tavern Brawl that allows you to generate small spells, the best deck is often Flamewaker Mage. So basically in the wild format, whenever there's cheap spells, Flamewaker somehow makes the cut. I really hate that card, but as a result, it's pretty good. The Jade Idol clearly kills Duskbreaker, but obviously falls to Flamewaker later, so it's not really a big deal. And then the big boys, the really big boys, or the small ones, Tunnel Trog. Tunnel Trog obviously beats Lich King handily. Lich King is, very powerful 8-drop and whatever, but Tunnel Trog, honestly, if you don't kill it by the time it's turn 8, well, you don't have a turn 8, but by the time it's probably like turn 5 or 6, it's probably the size of a Lich King. So Tunnel Trog is really insane. Tunnel Trog is a card that if you're playing like as a priest and you Shadow or Death a Tunnel Trog, you actually feel pretty good about it. Yeah, it's actually really broken. I'm so glad that card is dead now. Call to Arms versus Light Bomb. I think Call to Arms takes it. We've had similar power level board clears from Priest, though Light Bomb was near the top, and it hasn't carried Priest to victory quite yet. As a standalone card, Light Bomb is very, very good, but it is a Priest card, and Priest has a lot of competition, and what Priest largely needs is early game action more than more board clears. So Call to Arms defines Paladin. Light Bomb hardly defines Priest right now. You'd be hard-pressed to find Light Bomb in too many Priest decks, even in Wild right now. N'Zoth, I think, takes over Dark Pact. As good as Dark Pact is, N'Zoth is a deck-defining card on a power level that was being played up until he rotated out of Standard, and I think we'll continue to see some Wild play. Barnes, I think, easily beats Deathbite. I think Deathbite is actually worse than Bloodrazor right now. Deathbite, obviously, a very good card, but Again, it's an old age card that I think we have moved over. It's just been power crept, and Barnes, again, was seeing play up until it rotated out of standard just like a few weeks ago. N'Zoth beats Barnes barely, but it doesn't really matter because Tunnel Trog makes it all the way through. Clearly, Tunnel Trog is absolutely broken. And basically, we have our grand final here. We have Muster for Battle versus Tunnel Trog. Who will take it? Yeah, Tunnel Trog. And obviously on the other side, Ice Block. So basically our grand final, we have Ice Block versus Tunnel Trog. Now, I think these are probably the two most defining cards in the game. They're no longer in Standard, as it turns out, but I think these cards just take the cake as the most insane cards in all of Hearthstone. I think they're actually pretty evenly matched, but if I had to give it to one of them, I'd give it to Tunnel Trog. I think Tunnel Trog is the best card ever. 1-drops are really insane. 1-drops with 3 health are really insane. 1-drops that win more and grow based on playing cards you'd already be playing, and just come to a point where if you're using 3 and 4 mana removal against this 1-drop, you'd actually be happy about it, that you don't have to deal with that card anymore. That's when you know it's too much. I think Tunnel Trog was a point in the game where Blizzard finally realized that 1-drops can never be so powerful again. They've been really careful to release absolutely busted 1-drops since, and for good reason. I really hate this card. I think the best card ever in Hearthstone is a card we can all agree that we collectively hate. So it's a good thing we haven't seen too many cards like it since, but I think it's also important to remember the mistakes of the past. Hope you guys enjoyed my review. Remember to check out and see how the results go down. And again, please don't use this video to influence the way you're going to vote, or if you're going to vote, or if you're going to do any of that kind of stuff. But I thought it'd be interesting, and I think this whole project is very interesting, so you guys can get my opinion on some history in Hearthstone and how it relates to what other people think. Let me know your thoughts, and I'll see you guys tomorrow.